Hello, my friends. In today's video, I'm going to cover a topic that I used to really kind of suffer in silence because I didn't really know what it was many years ago. You know, when I was like in my growing up years and early teens, early 20s, I really didn't know what a pessimist was. I didn't realize what that was until later on when probably till I was in my late 20s that I actually realized that I was a pessimist. So today's video, can pessimists become successful? And the answer is absolutely. There are many pessimists who have become wildly successful, but I think some people that are pessimists might not think that that's possible. Once upon a time, I never believed it was. That's one of the things about a pessimist. You don't always believe things. You tend to approach everything with cautiousness and leeriness and negativity. So, over the years, I've sold millions of dollars in products and services online, and I make my living this way, and I am a pessimist. It was so bad for me that it's one of the reasons I'm doing this video is because it took me a long time to get a handle on what it was in my life because, I worked some odd jobs, different things when I was a kid. But when I actually got my first real job, I actually never went to it. I didn't even bother calling in and telling them I wasn't going to ever show up. And the reason is I did that is because I was so negative in my head about the possibility of this happening, that it overwhelmed me with anxiety. So I didn't even go to the job, and I never bothered calling in to tell them that I wasn't going to ever show up. But it was because I had looked at every negative situation that could have happened at that job, and I talked myself out of going there. And see, the other thing is I wrote a blog post, that's what you're seeing on the screen here, Can Pessimists Become Successful? I wrote a blog post that I'll leave a link to below this video with some more insights about how to overcome, being a pessimist. So, if you're having issues with it in your life. But there's a lot of things that can happen as a pessimist if you do not learn to get a handle on it. And it's one reason I want to do this video. I've met a lot of pessimists, and I can spot it a mile away when I'm talking to somebody if they are. And I know why they're not successful, because they tend to look at every situation really negatively. And that's what I did, throughout the beginning of my life. And it wasn't until, let me back up here. And I actually put this in this blog post too, is once upon a time, I wanted to be a game warden. That was the dream that I had inside my head as a kid. I would go fishing, I would go hunting, and that was the one thing I kept thinking about that I wanted to be, was a game warden. But when I went to classes for gun safety, a game warden came in and talked really down about the chances, if anybody in the room ever wanted to become a game warden, because we asked questions about that. And he said, they don't take on a lot of people in the state of Minnesota because there's hardly any vacancies available each year. So you really got to be at the top of your class and all that kind of stuff, because many people want to become game wardens because it's a field that people back then really loved, and they just didn't retire or quit from it. So you didn't have a lot of vacancies. And when he did that, I immediately went, well, that shoots my idea, the one idea I have that I could see in my head that I wanted to do in life. I guess that's over with, because I went to the negative aspect and said, well, I'll never get chosen. And so I dismissed that, and I never came up with any kind of new vision for anything I wanted to do in my life, because of the fact I was so negative about, look at this, the negative side of every type of career or anything like that. That's what I would start to look at. And so my early years working were very difficult, because I would literally quit jobs because of being a pessimist, because if that job didn't, and I didn't recognize this, keep me extremely busy, then I would start to look at all the negative aspects of it. And pretty soon I just wouldn't go to the job anymore. I had several jobs in my lifetime that I just never went back to, because I picked out every little negative thing And that's what I would focus in on. I didn't focus in on that I needed the money, I needed the job, I should just go to work. I would focus in on the negative and I would quit that job. And see, I never recognized these things. And that's what sometimes people do in business online is sometimes they join stuff. And I did this in the beginning and I'd be real negative about something. So maybe I started promoting it, but the minute I got negative cues, I would go, okay, that's over with. I'm not promoting that no more. And then I wouldn't make any headway. And, what changed and how I learned to cope with that and get better and better as the years have gone on, because I'm no longer like that. But 20 years ago when I started online marketing, I still had a lot of that pessimistic attitudes in me that would prevent me from doing certain things. But back when I was 20 years old, because after I graduated from high school, I was like, I don't know what else to do in life. Everything just seems impossible. Everything seems monstrous. Like it's just too much. It really got me down. And then when I was about 20, I joined Amway. A friend of mine tricked me into coming to an Amway party, and it was a guy who was going to show the Amway plan on a board in the living room, and he said it was a beer party. So I was like, oh, beer? I'm in. So I went there, and he said, oh, by the way, we're going to have to listen to this guy. I told him, I had some buddies over, and he said, would you mind if I speak to him for about a half hour about this opportunity? And I said, all right, it doesn't matter. If you're providing the beer, I really don't care. And so he started going through this opportunity, and back then I joined it, and that's where I first got bit with the bug of network marketing, the dream of financial freedom. And that person I joined Amway, and later on became my mentor, and he really shook the core of me because my pessimistic attitude towards things was so bad that's what I would always do. I would start things or stop or not actually start them because I would get real negative. And I started coming to him with all these negative things. And he kind of just dismissed me in a way, but actually he figured out what I was like and motivated me in a way. So I actually loved the guy, but at times hated the guy because he really pissed me off. And it was because he was getting at the core of me being a pessimist and getting me to respond in a way that it would motivate me to actually go and produce. And it worked because I started looking at things differently because through the training of Amway and all those years of the going to all these, free enterprises and all kinds of big events. I listened to all these different speakers, and of course that changed my perception and thinking of different things. But it was really him that got at the crutch of what my problem was, and I was successful in Amway. Now, long story of why I ended up not in Amway anymore. I'm not going to get into that in this video, but he changed my life. I became really different. After that, I was really motivated because I learned how to focus. Instead of being on the negative, I learned a lot of self-talk from him that kept me focused on where I wanted to go in life and that it was possible for me to get there. I did a lot of reframing of questions to ask myself and self-talk inside my head to get me to see outside of that. And so it really changed who I was. And that's from that point on in my whole life, I've always been involved in business and been involved in network marketing almost my entire life, in which we are now. I'll leave a link to, what we do in the video description, as well as a link to this blog post. So if you're a pessimist or you have some of these same issues, you can go read this blog post that I did as well. And you can go through and see some tips and tricks to helping yourself get out of that funk. And being a pessimist can be very powerful because it can shield you, though, from taking unnecessary risk. That's a positive being a pessimist, is you tend to investigate things a little bit more. And so you tend to shield yourself from gambling on opportunities or investments that are junk or no good, never will be. and you tend to be able to pick out stuff that is quality because of the fact you're a little bit hesitant. And that's the positive. I learned to pick out the positives. But my being a pessimist got so bad in my life throughout pieces of it, it would impact me to, like I explained, when I first started marketing online, different things like that, I would stop a lot I was doing because I would get involved in a negative. And even as I made a lot of money, it would pop back in, and I would be like, one company in particular made well over $100,000 from that company. And I got all into the negative, even though the company is still there today. The company paid out well. The company did, good things. It's just that I decided to pick out the negatives, and this was a long time ago, picked out the negatives of that particular company. And so then I stopped promoting it. I still make money from the company today, but I don't promote it anymore. But that was one of the reasons that I moved, is because of just pure pessimist, being negative, because I would do that with certain things and it would stop me dead in my tracks. It would send me down a rabbit hole. If you've ever heard the term analysis paralysis, when you're a pessimist, that's what happens. If you get wrapped up in your negative, you start to get frozen and then you don't do anything. So I've had to learn certain things to do to stop myself from doing that so I can continue to flourish. And over the years, I have conquered that because I learned, don't look at certain statistics. Like in me and my son's business, certain sales statistics, I ignore them. I don't look at them. I don't analyze them, where a lot of people do, because I can't. And if I do, and if it's a down period, it can stop me from producing because I'm going to go down a rabbit hole. And so I want to always be moving forward. And the way to do that is I've learned those tips and tricks to shield myself from doing that. Because in life, even, like, things can become overwhelming when you're a pessimist. Like, the grass needs mowed, this needs done, you need to do X amount of work online, or you have a job. If you have a job and you got to do this and that, and you need to go here and you need to pick up this. And as a pessimist, you can look at all the negative aspects of it, including like taking a shower, going and getting a haircut, putting your clothes away, shoveling snow. It's winter here now, so that's why that popped in. But any of those things, you can literally start to procrastinate heavily as a pessimist, because you look at the negative aspect of every one of those things. Oh God, that's going to take X amount of time. I got to go over here. I got to do that. And pretty soon that's all you're doing, is you're thinking about all the negative. So then you procrastinate and you don't do it. Because even stuff like taking a shower, I have struggled with that in a point in my life where I had to use self-talk to go, it's only going to take you a few minutes, go jump in the shower. Of course I took showers. That's not my point. But it still battled in my head as a pessimist, because it was going to take time. I had to do this and that, or I had to go up a flight of stairs to go where the shower. I'm just going through scenarios in my head that literally, and then that leads to procrastination, because you are wrapped up in all the negative aspects in your life of any of those things. I learned at that point, when I start to become overwhelmed, and that's what I do today, is I make a list. And I only focus on doing the list, meaning I only do the things on the list. So I write down the list, and in fact, I just made one today because I felt kind of overwhelmed with the number of things I needed to get done coming up here to Christmas and all that. So I had to make a list. Now all I do is focus on doing one task. And that's all my brain does, is go, don't just do that task and then put a line through it. Do that task, put a line through it, and just do it. So once I start that process, pretty soon I get everything done very proficiently, because I'm no longer focused on the negativity of each one of those activities, because I've learned that's how to motivate myself, is to make a list and treat it as a result of a reward inside of me of, I got that done. So then I don't sit and get all wrapped up in the negativity of the activity, which can be nothing. But that's the way a pessimist works. And most people who know me would never dream that I'm a pessimist, because I've changed so much, and I no longer outwardly, I haven't done that for years to most people, Only people who know me really, really closely and are involved in my life. A few of them may see some pessimists in me still, but I tend to hide it very well because I've learned all these different tips and tricks to keep me functioning at a high level and accomplishing. Because, in life, I never thought a lot of this was possible. I never thought I'd live the .com lifestyle, which I do, which I haven't worked for somebody else since I was like 38 years old. I have freedom. And I did that being a pessimist because I learned how to keep it in check. Because if you don't, it can take you down rabbit holes your whole life and lead to a very dreaded existence, especially then if you start procrastinating on top of that. I'll actually leave a link to an article about procrastination as well, because being a pessimist and procrastination really can go hand and foot together. If you're a pessimist, you understand that. Maybe people who are not do not, but I'll leave a link for that blog post as well, because both of them I wrote, they go through some really great information about being a pessimist, how to overcome it, and same with procrastination, some of the tricks that I use to actually not procrastinate. And a lot of people who watch my videos over the years are part of our organization that we're building. Again, a lot of them would never dream that I'm a pessimist. And that's the reason I'm doing this video, because I'm kind of like the hidden pessimist, the closet pessimist, and nobody would ever understand or know that unless I went through and did this video. And that's why I wanted to do it, because I've met a lot of people. I know a lot of people that are pessimists, and they may not realize that. I would love to help them move beyond that, because the world is a much, much more brighter, beautiful place when you've learned these little tips and tricks to getting yourself to understand how to deal with it. And, people that watch my channel are in business usually with us, or they're looking for business tips on how to drive traffic, great opportunities to join, just all the kinds of things, ins and outs about making money online and marketing. And so this is a quality that people in business, if they have it, need to learn how to handle it, because you can be successful if you are a pessimist. I am living proof of that. And so, other than that, my friends, I will leave those links in the video description, and I will see you on another video. Have a great day.